Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. We are really excited about. We are here at our 90 days, so very excited about that. Thank you for joining what will be an exciting hour of what we are sharing regarding employment opportunities and things. And so, what I want to do is I just want to make sure that we let you all know has been something we've been doing now for the last couple months. We had our mid seminar in September, and then we had our 30-day after that, and our 60-day, and now here we are at our last 90-day success in work. Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate everyone being a part of it. So many folks have learned so many things along the way, and we have learned so many things along the way as well. And so thank you all for being here. And Nafisa, we're at 90 days.
We are at 90 days. Good afternoon, everyone. Nafisa Burdine, Manpower Group's Community Investment and Sustainability Leader. I lead all of our community programs in the city of Milwaukee, but also throughout our US and throughout our country. And so our goal with this program was to really focus on providing the men with the support they needed to really shift to the success and how you can gain success with employment. Our goal was to help you to remove any barriers that you may have encountered over the years, whether that's a resume barrier or interview support barrier. Now that we are in a virtual environment, it's so important that the men know what employers are looking for as you gain new employment in this environment that we're in. I have to say that this program has been around for 5 years. I'm very excited about the duration of that and where we've come thus far. Each and every single year, we survey our men that attend this event to see what it is that you'd like to learn from this event, and we really are truly providing you with support that you need, whether it's access to transportation or mental health support. Maybe it's how to learn how to do driver's license recovery. And as I mentioned earlier, just really polish your resume and practice interviewing or any other barriers that you may encounter. It is important, this program is important to all three organizations that are on this call today, Goodwill, Manpower Group, and United Way. We are all striving towards a goal of reducing barriers to employment, and it is an important initiative for each and every single one of our organizations. As working for an employer, I know to date that the number of African Americans filing for unemployment is rapidly increasing due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And, we are proving timeliness of this work that we're doing in the community. If you know someone that is seeking employment, that is looking to see how to gain success on the job, this is a good call to maybe live stream from your Facebook. So I want to first thank all of you that are on the call today, and even those that are unable to make the call today. If you listen later today, hopefully you'll be able to gain some golden nuggets or tips that you can leverage and use for finding employment. We will have will Mark from Goodwill will lead our session today, and he'll speak on the success in the workplace. That's what we'll focus on today. But before we do that, I'd just like to turn it back over to Shannon to see if there's any other feedback or thoughts that you have as we kick off our final session of our 30, 60, and 90 day.
Well, Nafisa, I think that's the thing. I love doing this work with you and our partners, and so that we are here at our last of 2020. It's unbelievable that we were able to take this from what were doing inside of a building, and now we are able to focus on this virtually. And so, hopefully, everyone who's on the call, please, as Nafisa said, please share this with folks in your community. We understand the things that folks are going through right now as far as losing jobs and being unemployed. And so that's why we are here. That's why we are here in the community. And we thank you for being a part and being here with us, because you could be anywhere else in the world. So thank you for being a part. And Nafisa, I'm ready. Let's get started.
All right. Just a few housekeeping notes before we begin the event. Most of you, when you enter the room, or I should say all of you, when you enter the room, you were automatically muted. Please keep your cameras off and your microphones muted throughout the event. You will have an opportunity to unmute yourself, ask questions, and you could also use the chat box. So don't feel that you have to be completely silent. We want you to be able to use the chat box, place any questions that you have in the chat screen, and also engage with those that are on the call today. We have a number of individuals that will monitor the chat box and support us that way. I'd also like to just give a huge thanks to the planning committee. I know we'll plan on thanking them later today, but it's so important to me as this is something that I'm very passionate about. And this planning team has come together over the past couple of months, the 30, 60, 90 day, just to extend what we're already doing. And that is providing success to the men in our community and throughout greater Milwaukee, not just Milwaukee. So we are very proud to bring you this session and work with you on success. And so as we introduce our guests, Mark is with Goodwill, and he's been helping multiple people find new jobs and careers over 12 years. He began his workforce development career as a case manager and eventually supervising and developing and training and job development programs in Racine and Walworth County. Mark has been working for Goodwill since 2018, and he's currently at the Goodwill Workforce Connection Center in Bayview. Mark will highlight at the end of the call a few of the locations that Goodwill Workforce Connection Centers are located at, so that you could also gain additional support if this time frame is not enough time for you, as some of us would say, and you're looking to sit one-on-one with someone. There are opportunities where Goodwill is still working with our community from a broader perspective to support you with those opportunities. And then Mark is an award-winning filmmaker, photographer, and teacher. So very excited to have Mark join us today. Mark, if you're there, welcome and look forward to hearing all the great insight you have on success in the workplace.
Thank you for the very nice introduction, and thank you for having us. And I've been participating kind of in the background for the last 90 days, and it is hard to believe that we're at this point. And I'm very pleased to be presenting this information. I hope people find it useful. And I want to thank everybody, Shannon, Nafisa, and everybody else for all the support and help in doing this. So my name is Mark Lemkul. I work at the Bayview Center at Goodwill. And we're in the Bayview neighborhood on the south side of Milwaukee. And you can move on to the next slide if you want there. I'm with Goodwill. And of course, everybody knows about our retail stores. And I actually work inside the retail store at an office in the back. We have a job center there called the Workforce Connection Center. So we've got locations throughout Milwaukee, and we help people find work, find careers, and find hope, as our mission says. And so we'd be happy to see you. We're one of the only places that's still seeing people. So you can stop by and come to our office, do a little shopping, and we'd be happy to help you with your resume, job search, or answer any questions. Goodwill does a lot of good things, and the Workforce Connection Center is one of the things that they do for the community. So next slide, please. So I'm going to start with a quote from Barack Obama, and I like this quote, and I think it's pertains to what we're going to be talking about today. Change will not come if we wait for some other person or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. So that's often talked about as a political statement, but I think it can be a personal statement, something that people can look for their own development. The change is important. And if you want to be successful at your job and anything, I think it's important to embrace change. And that change comes down to you. You have to be the change. So next slide. So we're basically going to cover three areas today. We're going to talk about what employers are looking for. It's important to understand what they want when you're looking, when you're starting your new job, and what their expectations are. Put yourself in their shoes. And then we're going to talk about your own professional goals and career goals. And then we're going to talk about your reputation and your brand, which is very important when you move forward in your new job or move forward into your career. So next slide, please. So here's a list of things that employers want. This is just some of them, but it's a good list. And they want to know that you understand your role. They want you to know and understand your role and the expectations of your job. Of course, they want you to be on time and be present. They want you to be present physically, but also mentally, to be engaged in that job. They also want you to meet deadlines. It's very important to meet those deadlines, be on time, and the deadlines have results, that they matter. And then also display a positive attitude. They want you to be flexible and continue learning. And then they want you to maintain a professional demeanor no matter what happens. Professional, you're going to hear that word a few times during this, and it's good to understand what that means. We'll talk about that. And then, of course, they want you to be productive. So of these things, what would you say? And I think we have a little poll, Julie, right? What would you say would be the number one concern that employers have for their new employees and also for their incumbent employees? Would it be productivity, attitude, attendance, or flexibility? So you can vote on this, and we can see what the answer is. Guess I get to vote too. Get it out of the way. So do we have an answer? I don't see anything. Oh, so 30%, 38% of you say productivity, 25% say attitude. Those are both good things, right? I think those are important things. And then 63% of you say attendance, and nobody chose flexibility. So I think, everybody has a good idea. Most people said attendance, and that's the correct answer. So go to the next slide, please. So attendance is the number one concern, right? You create problems when people don't show up for work. If they're late, it costs money. It puts stress on the other employees at the company. So attendance is very important. And that's something that I hear from employers over and over again. They have a hard time getting people to show up and show up on time. When I was working in the different employment programs, we had what we call boot camp programs, which were intensive training programs to teach people to be CNC machinists or machine repair or telecommunications. We talked about Lombardi time. And so anybody know who Vince Lombardi is? I think it's given away here by the picture. So Vince Lombardi, of course, is the very famous coach for the Green Bay Packers. And the idea of Lombardi time is that if you're on time, you're late. You need to show up 15 minutes early. He stressed this with his players, that all meetings and all practice sessions would start 15 minutes before schedule, and they're expected to be there at least 15 minutes before that start. So it's important to be on time, but if you can be early, that really makes an impression and builds up your reliability and trust with a company. So being on time is being early. You want to be ready to go when your shift starts. So show up, you can get your coffee, put your coat away, you can talk to your coworkers, but you want to get that done before your shift starts. When that clock, the hand swings past 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or 6 a.m., whenever your shift starts, you want to be ready to go, right? You want to be ready and ready to plunge in and turn on the machine. You can even start early if you want, which makes a really good impression on people. So attendance is only one, attendance includes being on time, but it also means being there physically, right? Showing up. So how many times would you say, does anybody have a guess? It's how many times is it okay to miss work in a month? This is again from an employer's point of view. So how many times would you say it would? Anybody want to just throw that in the chat? So Leah says 0. Anybody else? That's the right answer. You do not want to miss work. You do whatever you can to be there, right? You want to understand your company's attendance policy too, because if you're late or you miss work, you could have a penalty. You could accrue points, or you might even be danger during a probation period of losing your job. So you want to make sure that you understand the attendance policy, but do whatever you can to be there. Now, we used to say that even if you were a little sniffly and you didn't feel well, try to power through it and show up for work. These days, it's a little different, so you want to understand your company's policy toward being sick. We're living in unusual times, and so you want to make sure that if you're not feeling well, maybe it's not a good idea that you do go in. But I think under any other circumstances, you want to be there as much as possible, ready to start work as early as you can. So next slide. So we all know that things happen, right? So if your transportation is the bus and the bus is late, what is your backup plan? You need to have a contingency plan. If your car doesn't start on one of those cold Wisconsin mornings, then you need to have a plan. Do you have somebody else to take you? Do you have another car? Do you have a friend that can take you? You want to think ahead for all of these things and come up with a backup plan. So you want to come up with a plan for your transportation and your childcare. Your childcare is very important. You may say, well, my kids go to school. Well, these days, that's kind of a scary thing sometimes, because your kids could all be sent home if there was a COVID outbreak. Or if your own child gets sick, do you have a plan to take care of them? Do you have somebody do you have a spouse? Do you have a friend? Do you have a relative that can take care of them? You want to plan those things ahead of time so you don't miss work, that you have an option. They may be sympathetic that you miss work, but they're not going to be sympathetic about the time that gets lost, and you might get penalized for that absence. You want to also plan any obligations that you have as far as in advance as possible. That includes doctor's appointments and dentist appointments, things that you want to do, and you want to try to schedule those outside of work hours as much as possible. Sometimes there's legal obligations that you might have. You might have court dates or other things that are not flexible. You want to let your employer know about this and plan those things as far in advance as possible. Let them know that you have something going on that you need to attend. Think about other things that might prevent you from getting to work, such as parking tickets. Is your car registration up to date? Is your driver's license expired? All those things could prevent you from showing up, or being late, and you don't want to show up and without letting somebody know. So think ahead, try to get all that stuff out of the way before you start work. And that leads into the next thing, which is communication. So communication is really important. It involves communicating with your company, with your coworkers. It's knowing who to call when something happens. You want to have that phone number, or you want to have that email, or know who to text if your car does break down. Let them know. It's a lot better to let them know in advance rather than to show up 20 minutes late and say, oh, my car didn't start. It really helps build your reputation as being a reliable and trustworthy person, somebody who is willing to communicate and let them know. Communication also includes your conversations with everybody at work, how you interact with people, how you present yourself, your body language, how you talk. You want to be respectful in the way you present yourself at work, how you dress, and then how you engage with the other employees. Try to be positive, try to be upbeat and respectful. You want to have conversations with your coworkers, of course, but you want to keep things to work as much as possible on that professional level again. You don't want to get too personal with them, but you want to get to know them on a work level. So communication also involves verbal and written communication. So if you have to, excuse me, write an email, ask for time off, who to contact, the process, and you try to do it again in a professional way, as much a professional way as possible. So the next slide, please. So at work, you're going to be part of a team, and your team is probably going to be diverse. And diverse includes such things, right, as ethnicity. It can include gender identity. It can include religion. It can include age. All those things are important to understand how everybody fits in and be respectful of their different diversity, the different things that people bring with them. But also diversity includes how you work together, what skills you are bringing to work, and what skills your coworkers have. How do you fit into that team? that's really important to consider and something you want to be aware of. What skills are you bringing? What experiences are you bringing? And how do they complement the people that you are working with? You will come to work with certain strengths that you have, and you want to be able to share those strengths to accomplish what you're doing. You're going to be working with a team with certain goals that the company may set for you, and you want to understand clearly what those goals are and how you can achieve them. So again, going back to the sports metaphor, Vince Lombardi was a great coach, but he had a great team. He knew how to utilize the strengths of his different players. He moved people around or developed people in certain areas to really create a winning team. I read the book by Phil Jackson, another coach. Anybody know who Phil Jackson is? Yes. Yes, okay, who is he? So he was the coach most recently of the Lakers, right? And then back when Michael Jordan was playing for the Bulls, he was the coach of the Chicago Bulls. And his book, Sacred Hoops, is about, yeah, the best NBA coach. I guess that's arguable, but he's a great coach. Sacred Hoops is about his experience as a coach and how he moved into the Bulls. And when he got to the Bulls, his biggest challenge was getting them to work as a team, because the other players tended to sit around and watch Michael Jordan, because Michael Jordan was so good. They just give him the ball and let him do all the work. So he needed to understand what their strengths were and develop those strengths and coordinate everybody to work together. So your team at work is going to be like that. You need to coordinate and understand how you fit together, how you can complement each other, and how you can get something done. Also, being part of a team is being accountable. Always follow through and do what you say you're going to do. If you're given a task and you can do it, that's great, but own the difficulty sometimes if you're behind. Let them know, share your challenges. Your team will probably come in and help you meet that goal. And the same thing for other team members. If you see somebody else struggling or you can offer some assistance and you have strengths in those areas, that is something that you can offer and help people with as well. So you all want to work together, being helpful, respectful, and flexible, right? Flexibility, being able to take on other roles, step in for other people, learn their jobs, and kind of be able to do what needs to be done. By doing this, you'll build strong professional relationships and you'll build trust. And trust is really important when you're talking about building your reputation and your brand. So next slide. So this slide is 30, 60, 90, which coincidentally is the name of our program, right? Our series is 30-day check-in, 60-day check-in, and 90-day check-in. For me, these are critical points in a new employee when they're hired. So when I was working on workforce programs and we were supporting new people, putting them into new jobs, we were aware that the first 30 days was really critical, that to be aware of getting that backup plan, having the support they needed to make it through the first 30 days. But if they made it through the first 30 days, statistically, you're going to make it through the next 60. And if you make it through that next 60, you're probably going to make it through 90. So each step, you have a chance of succeeding to the next one. The 90-day is really important. And if you make it through 90, you're probably going to make it through the year. So you'll notice that these days coincide with the probation period of a lot of companies. And that's what they look for, is that first 90 days, they decide if you're a reliable and trustworthy person, someone they can invest in and develop. So that's why the temp to hire jobs are at that 90-day mark often, is because you've proven yourself after 90 days in their eyes. The 90 days is also a step toward building a strong work history. So work history is really important. It's important within the company to have solid work. And you want to aim for, beyond that 90 days, at least a year, and if not 2 years, would be a great, strong work history. And then you can build on that success in the company. So by having a strong work history, by showing them you're reliable, that you can make it through that period of time, they may offer you more opportunities. Excuse me. And then You may be thinking ahead to another job. Maybe the job that you have is not all that you want, or you see something else that has more money, that offers more money. You want to build on the success and that work history, and you can transition to a new job with the networking that you've done, the relationships that you've built, the people that can speak and be references for you for your new job. Next slide, please. Any questions on that? So now we've talked a lot about what the employer wants, and it's really important to consider what you want. What is your why? Why do you have this job? Why are you doing what you're doing? What is the purpose of your job? A lot of people, and me included, it's money, right? I need money, so I work to earn money. That's fine, but is there something more that you can get out of the job? Statistically, it shows that the more people are engaged, the happier they are at the job, the more successful they're going to be. So can you find something, aim for something that gives you more purpose or meaning in your job? They may offer other opportunities for development. So think about that as you move forward in the company. Is there a way that you can move up, or is it a dead-end job? Dead end job is probably not a great term to use, because not all jobs are dead end, I would say, because they're all valuable because you're gaining that work history. So even if you don't like the job, you want to think about transitioning to a new job. And we always say it's easier to transition to a new job when you have a job. So keep that job, use the proper way of giving notice and moving on to something else. Next slide, please. So within your job, can you discuss what interests you, right? Does your job offer that? What's your future? Do you want to stay with that company, or is this a stepping stone to another company? Or like I was saying, is this a job that you may use to move on to another job? If your goal is money, that's fine, but are you going to earn enough money at this job? By building your work history, it makes it easier for you to move from this job to a higher paying job. So you want to understand your skills and talents, your interests, and kind of set some goals for yourself about where you're going to go. A lot of companies will invest in you and look for or offer you opportunities to stay within that company and maybe move into other areas. They may not offer you something, but you often have to let them know that you're interested. I've been doing a lot of work with Amazon the last couple of years, and one of the people that I work with there started out as a warehouse worker on the floor, and then he eventually let them know he was interested in robotics. So when there was an opportunity, they moved him into robotics, and he learned all about the robotics that run that place, which was really pretty extensive. And then he decided, after he'd done robotics for a while, he was interested in human resources. So he let them know he was interested in human resources, and he moved into that position. So there's different things that you can do within a company if you want to develop your interests and skills. You want to also think about, what environment are you looking for? Does the company offer you an environment that is good for you? Do you need structure, a 9-to-5 job? Or do you want something that's more independent, where you can be more responsible for yourself and choose your own hours? So there's different things you can think about. A lot of companies are offering a lot of flexibility these days, and those are things you can look into. Next slide, please. So once you're at the company and you want to develop yourself, you want to take on and volunteer for new projects. You want to share your ideas, but you want to be aware of the company goals or your team's goals. Do you have an idea to save money or to make something more efficient? Can you help others complete tasks? You want to do things that make you're indispensable in their eyes, somebody that they want to keep around. So if there is a slowdown, you're going to be one of the people that they're going to keep. So you want to take the initiative and take on challenges, right? Step outside of your comfort zone sometimes and take on new things and really try and develop yourself. You can look for new opportunities, but again, you may have to ask for them or look for them yourself. You may have to communicate and express your interest in other opportunities that they may have. Some companies offer traditional or tuition reimbursement programs. So like at Aurora, you may start at a lower level, like a CNA or a personal caregiver, but if you're doing well, they have tuition reimbursement that can lead to an LPN or an RN. So those kinds of things may be available to you. Next slide, please. So ultimately, you're building your reputation and your brand, how they see you, your identity within the company, your professional self. So your brand is something that you develop. You think of companies that are reliable, that people buy the product of. Companies spend millions of dollars developing brands, and people, buy certain products because they know where they're reliable. They shop at certain stores because they know they'll get taken care of. It's the same thing with your reputation. Are you somebody that can be relied on, that can represent the company? Your professional self is something that's really important. Your reputation. There's a quote, I'm not sure who said it. I think it was Pliny the Elder, who said that your reputation is worth more than money. And that's true, because your reputation is really what's going to help you carry yourself forward into other opportunities in the company that you're working for, and perhaps into other jobs. Your reputation includes these three main things, I would say: respect for yourself and for others, integrity, right? Getting things done, being reliable, and honesty. And with that, any of these things, you should be successful. So here's a few more tips from Barack Obama. Here's 10 more if you're interested. I think these are really good ideas to develop yourself. He's got a lot of good examples here, but I'm going to choose 2 to leave you with. I would say, learn from your failures. I've made a lot of mistakes, and from those I've built on that, and I've been successful in areas too. I haven't been good at everything. It takes some time. When I was teaching, that was quite a learning experience. When I've done other things, including filmmaking, a lot of mistakes were made early on that I learned from and learned how to better myself. So do that and refuse to give up. Persevere, and you'll do well. And that's about it for me. Go on to the next slide. And here's our locations. We'd be happy to see you at any of these. We have our Bayview location on the south side, Richard Street, which is in the East Capitol area in the corner of Richards and Capitol, and then 91st Street, which is north of Silver Spring. So any of those places, we'd be happy to help you find career, find a job, do your resume, and we're seeing people in person. So thank you. So we have a group discussion here.
At this time, we'll facilitate a group discussion between Goodwill and a few of their staff employees. The first question that came about was, how do you successfully advocate for yourself on the job? Any feedback, thoughts, or tips there for us, Goodwill?
I would say that you have to make sure that you initiate those conversations soon into your job. Make it clear that you're really interested in contributing more than what you're being asked, and so you want to know that you're looking for any opportunity to learn, grow, and develop. So if the organization has any kind of professional development, and typically you might not be eligible for that for a certain amount of time, you have to maybe get past that 90 days, 6 months, but I would make it clear that you'd like to participate in that. And don't wait for someone to ask if you want to join in that, but make sure your manager is aware that any opportunity to learn, grow, and develop within the organization would be appreciated, and you are excited to have the opportunity to participate in that.
Thank you, Annette, for sharing that. Annette works with Goodwill, the Goodwill Workforce Center. I apologize. We should have done a quick intro with Annette and Leah, and then also thank Mark for all that great insight that he just provided us around success in the workplace. I think that you definitely hit on a lot of things. The one thing that stood out for me was communication. And so I really appreciate you going into details about that. And Annette, thank you so much for sharing. Any additional feedback, maybe from Leah or Mark, around how do you successfully advocate for yourself on the job?
I think it's helpful to establish a relationship with your leadership team right from the beginning, so that you're comfortable having those conversations. Because I think a lot of the times people feel maybe apprehensive to approach leadership, but most of the time they're understanding. And if you're coming to them, telling them exactly what you need or want and any professional development you're looking for, they're going to be a lot easier to talk to than you think. And when you start right from the beginning, you're always going to be a little bit more comfortable with those conversations.
Agree. Agree. Really good insight. If there are any participants that have questions or thoughts on the side of the chat as we talk through some of these discussion points, please don't hesitate to go ahead and place your question in the chat box. Anything additional before we move on to maybe learning a little bit more about how can candidates or employees, I should say, gain some additional internal employer resources? Anything before we move on to that topic? Okay. So how can some candidates or employees gain internal employer resources? What are some suggestions for employer resources so that they could be successful on the job? Any thoughts there?
I would say sometimes, you might find things on the website that you're not even aware exist. In some larger organizations, there are groups called affinity groups, which are gatherings of similar individuals, could be by ethnicity or gender or military service. And those are great assets within an organization to participate in.
I would agree. And at Manpower Group, we have 4 affinity groups that focus on different areas of expertise and interest. There is a women's affinity group. There's also a multicultural affinity group, as well as our LGBTQ plus. And then we also have our Unite, which is more of our multi-generational resource group. Those resource groups are super helpful for our employees and especially for me. As I was looking to develop and also progress within the organization, I was able to sit as a leader on some of those groups, and that helped me to be visible to some of our executive leaders and move into different roles within the organization. So being on some of those affinity groups also give you an opportunity to showcase your skill set and what you have the ability to offer to the company in a different way than your day-to-day work does. So I'm really glad that you brought up those affinity groups. Those are definitely good groups to be a part of. Any other suggestions around internal resources that?
Well, sometimes companies will provide a mentorship program, which I think is really good. If you can find a mentor, and sometimes you can find an informal mentor, right, with a coworker, maybe something that's not formalized, but somebody you get to know that can maybe take you under your wing and help you learn about opportunities and how to navigate the culture. I know, Miles, I think a question just popped up about the culture in a company, and that's a hard thing to figure out sometimes. But the good thing is that when they hire you and they interview you, they've already kind of made a determination that you're going to fit within that culture. So figuring out what that culture is sometimes is a bit of a puzzle, but you can learn, from your coworkers, and definitely, read that manual that they give you. A lot of people just sign the last page. You read it. So actually read it. There's a lot of good information in there that might be able to help you. And then, get to know people, develop those relationships.
If I can just add to Miles' question, and then I'll check with Leah, see if there's anything additional she'd like to add. But Miles' question said, culture is often talked about when referencing the workplace. As a new hire, how do I fit into a company's culture? I think it's a really good question because we all wonder, do we fit into the culture? And you wonder if this will be a good fit for you long term. And I think being a part of some of those resources and also networking can help you understand what the culture is like. And then from there, you can determine if this is a good fit for you. I know that we've talked about finding employment before you leave your current employment, and we have to keep that at top of mind. If you feel like after you've gotten an opportunity to learn the leadership and you've met several people on the job and you've read your handbook and you've gotten involved in some events that are happening at the workplace, if you still feel like that culture is not a good fit, I would say consult with some of your mentors. See if there's an opportunity to connect with some of the leadership that is there. Talk with them about your concern before you decide to make an emotional decision and a drastic decision to maybe leave the organization. Sometimes, if we find things that we connect to, we tend to stay with the organization a little bit longer. You'll also notice, and this is a survey that's out there, I can identify where it's from with some research, but most individuals tend to stay with the organization because of the people that they're working with. And so, network as much as you can, learn as much as you can, and really embrace the culture if you can. But if you don't feel like it's a good fit, find employment first before you leave that employer. And so that would be my feedback and additional suggestions. Leah, what about you? Anything else to add to that question?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's important to get to know your coworkers and your colleagues. And I think a good, if there's someone you haven't talked to before, a good opening question could just be, hey, you've been here for a while now. Like, what is the most important aspect of the culture to you? Or what do you feel like you relate to the most that's keeping you around? And you can kind of figure out aspects of the culture you may not know about that way and explore those for yourself so that you can figure out where exactly you might fit in and what you can relate to that will keep you there long term.
Awesome.
Nafisa, I know you said learn, and I think being curious is always a good thing. I think every moment of the day is an opportunity to learn. And when employees show that they're curious, they're going to learn something about another department that maybe doesn't exactly relate to their role, but helps them better understand the connection between the two departments. And every organization is about improving, saving, or making. And so if you collaborate with the department and have just a tiny bit of influence or an idea to help move that along, that goes a long way for you in any company or organization.
I would agree. I definitely would agree. There's one more topic that we'll touch base on, but before we move forward with those, that last discussion around professional development, I'd like to just see if my co-host Shannon is out there and if he had any additional thoughts around these two questions on internal employer resources, as well as how do you advocate for yourself in the workplace. Any thoughts
Yeah,
around those two?
yeah, no, Nafisa, thanks for the opportunity. I think, one of the things that you talked about specifically is around the mentoring piece. And I think it's really important that we understand what mentoring is. Because sometimes folks think, it should be I'm talking to someone and they're telling me what I should do. And mentoring doesn't work like that. It's a combination of things where there are conversations that take place and you're saying, here's where I am, here's where I want to go, these are the things that I would like to do. So I think having that understanding of what mentor looks like is always helpful for you, even when you're in your role, because everyone who thinks someone is a mentor may not be a mentor. They may just be a coach, or they may just be someone for you to have a conversation with. So that's something along the line. I think going back to your point around advocating, um, Annette said something about being curious about other positions. And I think advocating for yourself to say that I'm in this position, but I would love to know more about what that person does in the organization. And keep asking those questions, and folks will hear you because they'll say, "Oh, you want to know more about that." And I think that's important for when you're in your position, that you stay curious, and make sure you ask for the advice that you need as you go along the way. And it'll get you so many places very quickly.
Agree, 100%. Thank you so much for adding those tips that you've suggested. You just gave me a great reminder that many of my Manpower Group colleagues, including myself, have started off as temporary employees. We talk about 30, 60, and 90 days. Boy, can I remember being a temporary contract employee working for a Manpower Group for 2 years before I was hired as a permanent employee. And here it is, 17 years later, I've held
Wow.
11 different jobs. So when you talk about, advocating and being curious and getting involved, I'm a prime example, although I'm not male, I'm a prime example of how you can advocate for yourself, how you really network and broaden your circle and really find out what opportunities are out there,
Yeah,
especially outside of your department.
yeah,
So I'm so glad you brought that up, Shannon.
that's
Our
good.
last, I'm sorry.
No, I said that's great. That's great. Great advice.
Our last discussion here is around professional development. How can one advocate for or even explore professional development while they're currently working? Any thoughts, feedback, suggestions from each of you?
I think education is a really big one, especially if you're trying to, grow more into leadership positions, or maybe you don't qualify for something because it requires a master's or a bachelor's or whatever that would be. So I think finding out what your company does for reimbursing for further education, or even if your company has kind of what Goodwill has is called Goodwill University, where you can, attend different classes within your own company that are held by maybe their HR departments or whatever it might be. So just attending different things that are going to grow your professional kind of database in your own brain, and always developing professionally in education and finding out what your company will cover in that way.
I agree, Leah. I love the thought of finding out what your company will cover. And I love that because Manpower Group, we have a program called My Path. So anyone that works for Manpower, and you can go to manpowerjobs.com, you get access to online curriculum education where you can earn certifications as well as degree programs. And so I want individuals to keep that in mind, because a certification sometimes take anywhere from 10 weeks to maybe 6 months, and then you're working in a field of your choice, a field that you're interested in. And there's so many employers out there right now that is doing on the job training. So when you think about that, I talked about myself, particularly working with the organization for 17 years. Some of those jobs I did not have the experience in. However, the employer was willing to train you on the job, willing to give you the certification and the skills and the tools that you need to be successful. So I want you to just keep that in mind as you're working with your employer. Talk about what opportunities are out there for furthering my education, furthering my professional development so that I can grow with the company. I had a gentleman from our 30-day follow-up Success Starts Here men's virtual conference, and he said to me, Nafisa, I've been in the workplace for over 5, 10 years in manufacturing. I really want to move into a team lead role. We helped define his resume, hone it up and brush on it a little bit, brush up on it a little bit. And now he's interviewed over the past couple of weeks, and now he's working as a lead in his department in the manufacturing environment. So that just goes to show that if you're determined, if you really want to do something, work with the right people, and you can definitely get there. So I love your feedback on education and just putting yourself out there. Any other thoughts as it relates to professional development and how you can help yourself move into different roles?
There's a lot of great resources out there that you can just dig around. And I find this acronym kind of funny, but it's called MOOCs, which are these massive open online courses. And
Annette,
they,
say that for us one more time so we can
okay,
all catch it.
well, the acronym is MOOC, MOOCs. but actually they're incredible. Now they're not for everybody, but they're called massive open online courses. They're offered by major universities throughout the country and the world. And there's a lot of them that are free. And so if your company doesn't offer something right now, but you want to demonstrate your willingness to learn, try taking one of those. They're pretty impressive for anybody who's able to navigate those and take one of those and gain that certification. So there could be something at that level. LinkedIn has trainings. There's all sorts of free trainings out there. And I think find one that fits for you and just put that forth and demonstrate your willingness to learn.
And I would second that too. And that I think things that we sometimes forget, like, things are closer than we think. And there is Google, right? There's a big machine out there that can help us understand so many different things, whether it's me learning how to deal with a conversation that may be negative, or if I'm trying to learn what I should be doing in any tool, whether it's from the things that we've provided, like doing Zoom or going on LinkedIn. I think it's really for us to kind of get caught up in so many big things that things are so small, and we can just type in and say, help me do this. Can I learn how to do this? And I think those are important steps for our folks to know that, you have the tool right in front of you. It's just a matter of learning how to do it. And I know Google is a big machine to help us do that and learn new tools.
I agree with you both. I think that we're in different times right now, right? So we have to think differently. And Annette, you mentioned LinkedIn. I was blown away by all the resources that LinkedIn has. So if you have not created a LinkedIn profile, go to linkedin.com. It is amazing. If you are going into an interview, there are videos that you can review. There's also questions that you can pull and look at. That could be a resource for you. Annette, you also mentioned, I believe I'm saying it correctly, it's MOOC, massive open online courses. I've never heard of that. So every day, if we just talk to someone different, we learn something new. And so it's so important to just get out of the circle that we're used to and broaden our circle a little bit more with people that we may not be familiar with so that we can learn something different, learn something new. So I appreciate each of you for sharing those insights about how you can be successful, how you can really advocate for yourself, and internal resources that employers might have. So thank you all very much. Anything additional before we move on and wrap up our session here? Okay. Well, thank you all very much. We've got a few reminders here that we'd like to review with you. Shannon, would you like to talk about the reminders for us?
Absolutely. So, once again, thank you, Goodwill, for being a part of this and bringing, Mark, bringing so much great information to our viewers and everybody who's a part of the work today. And so, this is our 5th annual, once again, Success Stars Here 90-day check-in, where we talked about success. And these are resources, as we were just speaking about, so that you have access to tools all the time, any 24/7, honestly, to be able to get it. And so we have our site, which is www.unitedway.gmwc.org/employment-resources. You're going to find a host of information on there, from resume writing to interview to financials tools. And we are also including our 30, 60, 90-day videos that will be on there. So if you want to go back to something and find something out, please feel free to go back there and check out that information, because it's so important. And so we're just excited, once again, that you all were able to be a part of it. Please get this out to your community. This is information that we want to make sure that everyone has. We do not want this to be a secret. We want everyone to know that these resources out there, they are out there for our community.
I agree. Thank you so much to those that have joined today. Thank you, Goodwill, for partnering with us on this 30, 60, 90 day. I think that It all kicked off because our Success Starts Here virtual seminar was such a success that we wanted to just continue the discussion and continue the support that we need to provide our men in the Metro Milwaukee community, so that they could gain and land employment and be successful with employment. So I just want to say thank you for the partnership. We are looking forward to see where this goes. And thank you to Manpower Group for being a sponsor of the Reducing Barriers to Employment. It is very important work that all three organizations are working towards. And we want to thank our media sponsors for giving us an opportunity to talk about these events. So thank you, WNOV 860, as well as Andrea Williams with just providing us the platform to get the word out there to these men. We have been advocating and really promoting through our social media platforms, and we just want to thank our planning committee for supporting with that. We have a number of planning committee members that work behind the scenes, and this wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for them. So we just want to say thank you. If there's anyone on Facebook that have questions or anyone that view the live stream that have questions, don't hesitate to place those questions in the chat. Whatever platform you're using, we'll be able to see them and reach out to you and follow up with you. And then if there's anyone in here that have questions, please don't hesitate to place those questions in the chat also. I do see that the link for the website was placed in that chat. I want to remind individuals that each year we typically invite employers to join the Success Starts Here Men's Seminar. I want to thank the employers for even being available this year to provide resources electronically to all of those that are seeking employment. That website does have employment opportunities listed, so please don't hesitate to go there if you're seeking employment or you just need general resources. And we do have that website in the chat, and also Shannon just reviewed the website with you as well. I want to thank everyone for your support and just being available for these 3 sessions as we extended our Success Starts Here men's seminar. Again, have a wonderful day. We look forward to 2021 and what's yet to come. We're hoping to continue to be a resource for each and every single one of you.